Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today, going off the title of the video, this is going to be one that divides a lot of you in the comment section, and it might turn a lot of you against me. I'm taking a risk here. This is one that I feel like quite a few of you are going to hate me for, but Celtic are now officially in the hunt for their next manager. We need someone to come in and take over from Ange Postecoglou, and for me, that man should be none other than Brendan Rodgers. Hello, welcome back to the channel. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please don't kill me. Don't spam me with dislikes for this video. It's an opinion, and that's all it is. I'm sure we've all got one, and I'm sure we've all got an opinion on the man we're going to be talking about in today's video, and that is Brendan Rodgers. But please, just don't kill me for it, right? We'll be nice about this. Hear me out, because today I'm going to spend 10 or 15 minutes of my time explaining why I want Brendan Rodgers to be the next Celtic manager and why he's my #1 pick for the job. This isn't the first time we've been here on this channel where we've had to talk about the search for a new Celtic manager. It happened a couple of years back when Brendan Rodgers left the club. It happened when Neil Lennon was dismissed as Celtic manager, and now we find ourselves scrambling to replace Ange Postecoglou. But as always, every time it happens, I will make videos on numerous candidates. I am open-minded to many different options. I'm just going to start off with talking about my #1 option and why it's Brendan Rodgers. So don't worry, I'm not dismissing anybody else. I'm not saying it has to be or it needs to be Brendan Rodgers, but for me, it should be him. If you're looking for all my reaction in regards to Ange leaving, then I've done numerous live streams over the past few days on the build up to that official announcement this morning, so feel free to check out the channel. But without any further delay, let's talk about why I think it should be Rodgers. Let's start with what I think is the most obvious reason of them all, and the reason why Brendan Rodgers should be considered as one of the top candidates to be the new Celtic manager. The man's a winner, and I like winning. If you need reminded, his first spell at Celtic seen Brendan Rodgers take 7 out of 7, technically 8 out of 8 if you like, of the available trophies during his time at the club. It could have been that 9 out of 9, that treble, if he didn't leave in the February. But 7 out of 7 technically won for Brendan Rodgers. He won absolutely everything he entered. And I could go with saying that again. We've become spoiled with treble wins. We've become spoiled with trophy wins. Bar that COVID season, since Brendan Rodgers came to Celtic, we have swept basically everything going in this country, and a lot of that is down to the standards that were set while he was manager, and I like it. I like winning. I think that he's a man who can come in and continue where we've left off, silverware wise, dominance wise, and basically reinstate that dominance that he once was the head man of. He will keep Rangers in their place if he comes back here. He knew how to do it the first time, and he'll certainly know how to do it this time. He didn't get too many run-ins with Michael Beale while he was with Gerrard, but I think that he's a guy that knows how to handle the pressure of Celtic and know the pressure of winning these trophies, and I think it's just relatively risk-free. I like winning. We need to keep winning. We won't get tired of winning, and Brendan Rodgers is a winner. He done it at Leicester. He went down in a side where you're probably not expected to take many trophies home. He managed to win the FA Cup. He managed to win the Community Shield. The guy's a winner.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
Let's move on to the second matter of discussion here, and that's if he would even want to come back if he's in a position where he's ready to return to Celtic. We're going to take away the opinion right now about the way he left the club and the divide in the supporters. Let's talk about Brendan Rodgers himself and whether or not he would want to return to Celtic. Apparently, and according to some reports published last night in the mainstream media, he will need convincing to take up the Celtic job, but it's one that he's been open about in the past that he would love to return to. In an interview in 2019 while he was at Leicester, he said that he would love to return to Celtic one day, and I think that if the board can highlight to him that this might be his one and only chance at it, then I think it's one that we can convince him to take. For me, it's very simple. Should it be the right candidate, we should give them what they want. We're in a position now where we want to continue our dominance, and I think we need an elite level manager to do that. Now, there's a couple of names that come to my head straight away, but Rodgers is certainly one of them. Give him the money he wants, give him the demands he wants, and watch him work his magic once more. I think he's a manager who can be easily convinced. He said he wanted his break from football after his sacking from Leicester. He's had his break. Let's be real. He's not going to be out forever. He's only 50 years of age. He's got a long time left in the game. But I think that if Celtic can offer him all the right things, both personally and just overall at the club to work with, I think it's one that would be a no-brainer for him if he realises that it could be his one and only opportunity to make up for the way he left. Let's move on to number 3, and let's talk about this European record that everybody talks about with Brendan Rodgers, and let's talk about how he can come in and try and fix that, if you like, even though I don't think it needs a hell of a lot of fixing. At the end of the day, Brendan Rodgers did better than Ange Postecoglou did in the Champions League. There is this perception that Rodgers can't do it in Europe. Now, to a certain extent, I actually do agree. I think that we've seen Celtic underachieve in Europe while Brendan Rodgers was in charge, but it's not exactly like we've went on to do much more since he's left. Can I just remind you, we literally got knocked out the Conference League by Bodo Glimt last year. We are not in any position to critique anybody's European record at recent times at Celtic. And I think that Brendan Rodgers is in a position now where he could come in with the players we've got at our disposal and really fix up what was maybe an underwhelming time the first time. I think you can argue that in both of his first Champions League group campaigns, the first one in 16-17 and the second one 17-18, he probably had tougher groups than what Celtic had this season. We were going up against Manchester City. Pep Guardiola's Manchester City were going up against PSG with, you know, the likes of the Mbappe and Cavani and of course Neymar as well. We went up against Bayern Munich, who were an extremely good side at that time. Barcelona, who still had Messi. We went up against some big sides, and yet Brendan Rodgers managed to get some decent results, and one of them being our first away win in the Champions League in what it was. You know, that is something that we really look at now, and I think we kind of throw shade at far too often, that European run, considering we've not done much else ever since. I think the real problem with Rodgers' first couple of Champions League runs was those massive defeats to Barcelona and PSG. But let's not forget, we did lose 5-1 to Real Madrid at the Bernabeu this year. We have had some bad results as well. And Rodgers did take us to the last 32 of the Europa League on 2 separate occasions, both times against solid sides. You know, Zenit St. Petersburg, who were led by Roberto Mancini at the time, I believe. And then we had Valencia as well, who were a decent side at that moment in time. They were two tough teams to beat. We didn't win a knockout tie, but we've not done it since. It's not a Brendan Rodgers problem. Let's not pretend it is. It's a Celtic problem. And I think that Europe is hard enough for any manager at Celtic. That's the reality. I accepted that a long time ago, you know, like I don't have our expectations very high in Europe, but what Ange Postecoglou did was set a standard this year that shows we should go toe-to-toe with these massive sides rather than camping in and hiding away Let's go for it. Let's try and offer them a challenge. And we've seen dramatic improvements on the park. There's no denying that. So I think that Rodgers has got a side that he could inherit and do that with. Bring a bit of structure into the side. Defensively, we might be a bit sharper, who knows. But I think that it's a European record thing that can be improved on. It is roasty toasty up here, but let's get on to the next thing to talk about. Recruitment. I've seen a lot of people complain about the recruitment while Brendan Rodgers was here at Celtic, and let's not lie, there was a lot of duds. There was a lot of pointless signings, money wasted, players who were never fit enough to wear the jersey for Celtic. And that's one thing that we didn't see all that often with Ange Postecoglou. We've only had a couple of players who haven't made the grade, and a couple of those players you could even argue aren't even Ange Postecoglou signings. But I think that Rodgers coming in this time will be a lot better off. There's a lot of weight off his shoulders because of the work that's been done over the past few years behind the scenes. You've got to remember that Lee Congerton wouldn't be coming back with Brendan Rodgers this time, and I think that he is one of the main reasons we made so many dud signings. Like, we know Lee Congerton was a massive part of it, and I think that without him, Brendan Rodgers could maybe excel with this new side that's been built, this new side in the recruitment side of things, I should say. I think that he could really excel with that. Mark Lawwell and a lot of these other names that have been brought in the scouting department are there to help any manager who comes through the door, and I think they could help Rodgers big time. Let's not forget, Rodgers was responsible for the signings of Moussa Dembele, Odsonne Edouard, Scott Sinclair, and more. He was very influential in these signings, as we know, working with the likes of Sinclair in the past, and his connections with Moussa Dembele that we knew of. You know, these are signings that were really top tier for Celtic, elite level signings, you could say. And I think that him working alongside that new team could see a vast improvement on what was patchy recruitment the first time round. I think after his time at Leicester as well, he'll have more experience, and he's worked with more names, he's networked a lot bigger, and he's probably enhanced his own reputation as well, being down in the Premier League for a lengthy stint again. I think that could do well. He won trophies down there. Players know that Rodgers can win trophies. So, yeah. And, you know, with better recruitment teams, with better scouting departments, it comes on to topic number 5. Board backing. This time round, I think the board would realise what they have with someone like Brendan Rodgers. We backed Ange massively. Why would they not back Brendan Rodgers massively? Also, if he needs to be convinced to even take the Celtic job, then I'm sure assurances will be given to Rodgers that we would back him massively. Let's back him to the extent we backed Ange, or even more, maybe. Things are so different now. There's a new CEO at Celtic Football Club. Of course, Brendan Rodgers worked with Peter Lawwell while he was CEO. It's now Michael Nicholson. So that's obviously a big difference straight away. And I think that could make a massive difference moving forward in terms of Brendan Rodgers being backed by the board. There was obviously murmurs that when he left Celtic the first time round, that one of the reasons was because he wasn't backed fully and he didn't think his visions would be met with the way that the board backing was going. I think this time round, after what we've done over the last few years and with the trajectory of the club, I think that could be very, very different, and I think Michael Nicholson would like to back someone like Brendan Rodgers very much so. Obviously, there's no guarantees surrounding that. We know what the Celtic board can be like. We know that it can be a fickle bunch to work with, but I think the signs are there that things are different at Celtic right now, and yeah, I could be very excited with a backed Brendan Rodgers, I must say. And finally, let's get on to the last point of this, and my last reason I'm going to try and convince you Brendan Rodgers could be the right man for the job. A lot of you will be saying, he done it once, he'll do it again. Leopards don't change their spots. Fool me once, fool me twice, etc, etc. He'll just walk out and do the same. Listen, whoever we get next as our manager, and if they do a good job here at Celtic, they're all going to do the same. Knutson, if he does well, 2-3 years down the line, he'll go. Potter, if he does well, 2 or 3 years, he'll go. Maresca, 2 or 3 years, he'll go. They'll all do it. It's bound to happen. And Brendan Rodgers might do it again. Hopefully not mid-season, right enough, but he might leave again. But that's going to happen with any elite manager. Any elite manager is not at Celtic Football Club for the long haul. If you want a long haul manager, Neil Lennon's your man. And nobody wants Neil Lennon. So, if we're going to take a gamble on someone who might only be here for 2 or 3 years again, I want one that I know is a winner. That's my argument. That's my thoughts on why I want Brendan Rodgers to be the next Celtic manager. And trust me, there's a lot more that I could say to try and convince you guys that Brendan Rodgers is the right man for the job. I understand that people don't want him. They want him nowhere near the club and they can't forgive him. I think over time that would vanish very quickly when he starts winning again. But I can understand. That for me is just my first choice for the job. Everyone's allowed their own first choice. And Brendan Rodgers is mine. And he's the first choice for many others as well. Just happens he's mine. I loved it in his first time here, and I'd certainly love it in his second time here. I'm sure of that. But on this channel, we'll go through all the candidates. We'll talk about all the pros and cons. And as news develops, we'll get one step closer, hopefully, to finding out who is the best option for Celtic Football Club. But that's it for me today. More to come all week. Please don't go off your nut in the comments. See you all next time.